Last time you saw this car, it was on the Deutsche Auto Parts YouTube channel. If you missed it in the last video, we found after replacing the broken manifold that there was multiple connectors unplugged and all around sketchy work done on the car. This video is the part 2 on getting it back on the road. So sit back, watch me dive deeper into this engine, find out what's wrong with it, we fix it, and we get it put back on the road. I'm not seeing anything that jumps out saying broken. I just can see how badly loose the chain is. So I believe the chain just stretched all the way out. I mean, it stretched beyond its limit. The car has 250,000 miles on it, so it's possible that it still has the original tensioner in it. Yeah, it just looks like the tensioner's all the way out. The chain's just fully stretched out, and it finally jumped timing. Probably had some kind of other failure, and then when they went to fix it, I bet this broke when the chain snapped back, when this cam jumped. This chain probably kinked up, broke this. After they replaced that throttle body and kept trying to crank it. I'm gonna get my my tools in there, and I don't really know which one's which, so this is new for me. I don't claim to be an expert at this. I just assume this one goes right here. I'm excited. I'm curious to see if this motor is going to be any good. Hopefully there's no catastrophic damage. When we looked in with the borescope, we couldn't find anything, so it seemed like it was a pretty good motor. I'm going to set my timing marks. There's one here and there's one there. I'm going to set them to where they need to be, and then lock these into place, and then we'll start messing with the bottom. Try and get that out of my way too. We got our timing mark set up. There's a timing mark right up inside of here, inside the cover, that lines up with the mark on the cam. And then on the other side, there's one as well that lines up with the mark on the cam. So we got our timing mark set up on the top. We got our cam locks in down there. So now we're going to go down underneath, and I'm going to set the timing for the crank. Hopefully it's pretty close, because if not, I'm going to have to pull this back out in order to spin the crank over to where it needs to be. Alright, so we got our timing mark right up in there. I'm sorry it's a little hard to see, but we got our lower chain, or I guess this is the upper chain, but we got this timed. This is good. It's resting where it needs to be. Oil pump's on. Double checked to make sure my balance shaft chain was on correctly too. I got my timing mark here and up there. Get that out of the way so you can see, but yeah, the darker chain's right there. So that's lined up. This over here is lined up, and that right up in there is lined up. So balance shaft's lined up. Crankshaft pulley is on correct. Or, I'm sorry, crankshaft gear is on correct. Timing chain's lined up here. Let me go up top now. So I put a zip tie in it to make it a little easier right there. So that's zip tied to where it needs to be. And then we got our timing mark here. This is lined up. Now I can slip my guides all in. I'll have to pull this tool off in order to get this side guide in. But I'm going to go ahead and throw all the guides in, make sure everything sits well. And then we'll bolt the tensioner in. See where it all sits before we release tension. And then we'll set the tensioner on it, release the tension. And just like that, we have our timing set. Not bad. All our guides are in, tensioner's in. And the only thing I don't have is the oil pump tensioner, because now I'm going to spin the motor over, and I'm going to finally find out if the motor will spin over while it's in time. Haven't been able to test this yet, but now we finally can. Grab my light. Everything's looking pretty good up here, so now, get to spin the motor over and see what it feels like for the first time. Uh-oh. Oh, yep, that's not good. It stopped. Either something's out of time, or something catastrophic's going on. That's mildly disappointing. Now we get to figure out what's going on now. I was hoping it was not bent valves, but... Alright, so a little update. Both compression on 1 and 4 don't seem to be hitting anything. Nothing interrupts. It only seems to be when it goes to top dead center on 2 and 3. So, I don't know what the issue is there. It's possible it's interfering with the valves, but I checked with my borescope over here, and I'm just not seeing anything, any damage on the piston tops. So, or any like touching. It's completely covered in carbon. There's no clean spots. All right, we got a nice beautiful day out. We're gonna attempt to finally get this thing actually going. I got plenty of daylight. All right, so we got our timing all back in. Our guides are on. The only tensioner I don't have is the oil pump tensioner. I need to go through and torque all the guides and torque the tensioner. And we should be good. Then I can throw the oil pump tensioner on, and we could spin the motor over a couple times and see if our timing still lines up where it's supposed to be. All right, so we got everything in. I've already spun the motor over twice, but I'm gonna spin it over 2 more times on the camera for you guys. So 1 time. That's 2 times. Spun it over. Our timing marks lined up. Obviously, the chain marks aren't going to line up, but our timing mark here and there still line up. They're in line with the marks that are on this cover, which is interesting because I thought that they didn't have marks, but I guess on the Gen 3 motors they do have marks. So everything's spinning over nice. It's not stopping, which is good. Usually it would stop if I had bent valves. Now I'm going to throw the oil valve, everything back on, get everything torqued down the spec, clean up the lower timing cover, get the lower timing cover on, and then we can put the motor mount on and plug everything back up, try to fire it. Stay tuned for that. All right, a little update. We got a new oil filter put in it. We go underneath it, pull the oil plug, and get whatever oil is left in this engine, if there is any. I don't remember if Paul drained it or not. And then we're gonna throw some new oil in it. And then we'll be ready to give it its first start, or attempt to give it its first start. All right, so I just had to put the serpentine belt on because I forgot. Everything's all back together. It's got fresh oil in it. All right, so down here I unplugged right here so that there wouldn't be any damage to the motor in case the guy who's towing it accidentally started it because it's push start. So now we got that in. It should be good. Come back over to her and see what happens. Uh-oh, wouldn't stop. All right, sounds like we have a dead battery, so I might have to get a better battery in here. I grabbed another battery, see what happens. I'm not really hopeful. I think there might be a fuel issue. It's definitely got some upper end noise, but it runs. It's got some lifter kick. Might go away. Yeah. Once the oil gets going. Let's see. Yep. It runs though. Bro. I'm impressed. It's smoking. Alright, so what do we got on the dash? We got EPC, tire pressure, traction control, steering angle, light bulb. I'm just gonna let it run for a minute. All right, this thing's kind of a disaster. I just pulled the intake off and the throttle body to replace it with the original throttle body off the car. Thankfully we got it with it because it had this cheap aftermarket one. And me and Paul, when we were messing with it, trying to figure out what was wrong, we threw this Continental one on there to see if it would fix it. But I think this Continental one is for a GTI. This engine's a completely different engine. I mean, it's similar, but it is a different engine. The CPPA is just a weird engine. So this throttle body matches kind of this GTI one, which worries me. So the fins inside are the same as this GTI one. So this might be for a GTI as well that the original owner purchased. So I put the OEM one back on, and now I'm going to go inside. I'm going to clear any faults, and I'm going to attempt to do a throttle body alignment if I can on this car. I don't know if I can. I know on the older cars like that one there would be throttle body alignments, so I need to just look at this and see if I can do that first. Alright, so here's where we're at now. We got the original throttle body put on. I got the intake manifold tightened back up. Everything's together. My battery that I put in here was a little dead, so I had to hook up to jump off my other car. So when we put everything back the first time, I couldn't get the throttle to work. I'm going to start it up again. We're going to see if anything changed. Key on. Everything's good. Start it up. Oh, fires right up. It's idling perfect now. Oh, snap. Let's give it a little gas. Oh, yeah. Man, this thing's running good. Let's see. Motor sounds pretty normal. From what I gather in PSIs, they sound like this, I'm pretty sure, so. I'm excited. Now I need to straighten up this bumper situation here. Probably, I know that wheel is like completely cooked, but I might just throw it on just to take a lap around my neighborhood and see how this thing drives. I'm so excited. It's a Mark 6 2.0 starting a Mark 6 2.0. Of course, that one's non-turbo. That one makes turbo noises. Let's see what it sounds like outside the car. Nice. Well, I guess I did the timing right. I guess we don't have any bent valves. Now I guess it's time to take it around the block, see if it makes boost, see how it drives. Thumbs up. Alright, so we got the bumper that I repaired in one of my other videos. If you want to see it, check out my channel. I did a bumper repair right here, and then across all up inside of here as well. I repaired there and up along the front to make this a solid bumper again. I got to get rid of all these rainbow zip ties going on here. Get this fender liner straightened out, because obviously it's been wearing through the tire for a while. Who drives a car like that, man? Unbelievable. So we'll get all this cut out, and then I'll figure out what I need to do to make this actually work. You can see they let it drag on the ground so long that it actually wore away at this front piece, and I'll probably have to buy a new one, which I could probably order from the dealer.
Not a clean title car. Most certainly not.
Alright, so we got our APR intake back on. I did put a new filter in there. And we had a major issue with the engine that was causing EPC light, and it was this stupid wastegate actuator. Now, I don't think you can actually buy these. You have to buy like a whole turbo, which is really annoying. You can buy like the aftermarket CTS one, but luckily there was a junkyard car that had a SOT with a 1.8 turbo and that has the same exact wastegate actuator. So I don't need this anymore. But I got that swapped out. Car seems to drive great now. Wow, is that it? And down there on the turbo, I went ahead and put the CTS downpipe that I had on it. So since I put the CTS downpipe on, this car has become unbearably loud. Appears to only do that on cold start, and then it gets to a manageable amount. We got some lights on the dash. We got check engine light. The only fault I'm throwing now is just the catalyst fault, because I put a downpipe on it. So the catalyst downpipe.